Today's daf is daf Samach Beis, and we're continuing here until the Mishnah to analyze from a perspective of Tanakh whether it's Michalav Atashmei Hein, which would be the Shita of Rav Chanina ben Gamliel, or Michalav Atashmei Hein according to Rabbi Meir. And the Gemara says here on daf Samach Beis, on line number 4, which we got up to, Bishlema l'Rav Chanina, Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, Hainu Dechsiv, in the 5th chapter of Bamidbar with regard to Sota, who drinks the Maimorim, and the Kohen says to him, Lo shachav ish osach. And then it says in the negative, V'im lo satis tuma tachas ishech hinoki mimei amorim ha'ele. So why does the Torah have to spell out the second sad? We should apply the principle of Michalav Tashmein Ella, the Rabbi Meir, Chinki mi boile. So Gemara says the following, that it works out nicely according to Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel, that the Torah did not have to say, well, what would be im shachav? And that's Michalav Tashmein. But according to Rabbi Meir, how do we know the flip side, that im shachav v'satis, then you will suffer the consequences? And Rabbi Meir says the following, that Rabbi Khan chinoki, if it doesn't say chinki, of course, and that was Gemara's kasha, should have said chinki, that if you were mezana, then tichonik mishtiyas amayim, but it says hinoki without a yud. And it should have said hinki with a yud after the hey. So we're going to darshan it as if it was chinki. Very often the ches replaces a hey in Torah Sheval Pez interpretation Torah Sheval Chsav. Another kash. Bishlem Rabbi Meir Hainu Dechsiv hinaki. Now we understand that we're justified that the word hinaki without the yud means as if it said chinki. El Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel Lomali. Why did the Torah have to say hinki, which has a mashmos? It seems to imply chinaki. Itzrich. Even according to Rabbi Chanina, we need it. Why? Salke taitacham min, I would have thought. Im lo shachav ish hinaki, but im shachav lo hinaki v'lo chinki. If she was guiltless, then hinaki. Hinaki means she's free of any punishment. But if she was guilty, then maybe it would mean lo hinaki v'lo chinki, ela isa b'alma. Kamash malon, the Torah to be machadesh, that if she had znus, then chinki, she would suffer from the memorarim and die. Bishlem Rabbi Meir Hainu Dichsiv, in Bamidbar Yutes it says, Hu yiskata bo, bayom hashlishi, u bayom hashvi'i yitar, v'im lo yiskata, bayom hashlishi, bayom hashvi'i lo yitar. So we don't hold from Michalav Tashmei. The Torah had to write it in kofel in both languages. El Rav Chanina Gamliel Lomali. Why does the Torah have to write it in both the positive and the negative to tell you explicitly that im lo yischata lo yitar? After all, Michalav Tashmei. It's salkadei chamina mitzvahs hazah l'chatchil. The mitzvah hazah should be fulfilled b'shlishi b'shvi. But heichadi avad bechad minayu avad. If on the other hand he did one of these 2 days, he's nitar. Is Kamash Malon, the Torah had to say explicitly that if he didn't do both Shlishi and Shvi, lo yitar. Now, once the Gemara mentions this pasuk, the Gemara asks the following question: since it says Hu yischata bo b'yom hashlishi b'yom hashvi yitar, then the Hiza Torah al atomi b'yom hashlishi b'yom hashvi lomali. What's it coming to teach me? Itzrach. I need it. I mean, I would have thought that you could do the Hazah even on other days. And when the pasuk says V'yom HaShlishi, it's only limu ute sheni, that the sheni lutumaso is excluded. And when the Torah says V'yom HaShvi, it's limu ute shishi, it's only coming to exclude the day before Shvi. Why? Because in both these cases of Monday and Friday, the Koma might be day be made Tara. He's diminishing the number of days of Tara. Ubayom hashmini, if let's say instead of doing shvi, after he did Azon Shlishi, he waited until the Shmini to come afish. Now he's being Marbi Me'atara, then Ema Shapir Domi, maybe that would be sufficient. And he become Tar, Kamash Malon, the Torah to say explicitly that he could only become Tar if the Azon is on Yom HaShlishi and Yom HaShvi. Gemara continues and asks, since we already have derived the conclusion that Azah has to be can only be on Shlishi and Shvi, then what does it mean? V'chito bayom hashvi. Lomali, what are you adding by saying v'chito bayom hashvi? Itzra. Salkedat kamir, I would have thought hani mili. This requirement of two azos is only as far as what? As lehet v'achilus kodshim avol truma v'chad min ayusagi. Maybe it would be sufficient that one of these two azos would be mitarim for achilus truma, because truma is not as choshev as chomer as kodshim. Mashmal on the Torah to say with that extra pasuk that even in order to be matir for yinis truma, we need two hazos, and nothing less will do. And now we begin the Mishnah here in the middle of Daf Samach Beis Omer Aleph. Hamakadish Isha v'Yomer. Because Savra Yisi she Kohenes, I was under the misimpression that she was a Kohenes. Varei Levia, he wants out from this Kiddushin, wants to rescind the Kiddushin. Or Levia, I thought she was a Levia. And Vidnimtza, she turns out to be a Harei Kohenes. I don't want to live with a woman who's got more chashivas than I do. Or in the case of Aniya, he thought that she was a poor person, and Varei Ashir. Or he thought she was an Ashir Varei Aniya. In all these cases, he didn't make an explicit Tanai, and therefore it's Varm Shabalev and Hari Kid Mekudeshes, the Kiddushin is valid. Mipnei Shalo Hit Ato. She didn't mislead him. If she would have misled him and given him the impression that she's a Kohenes or an Ashir, etc., when she really is not, then he could claim Mekach Tol. So I didn't want to get married under the assumption that what she said to me was misleading. But if she didn't mislead him, then it's a Tanai. He did make a Tanai, and it's Varm Shabalev, and therefore it's not going to undermine the Kiddushin. And now we get to the sugya of Davar Shelo B'Oliyol. Ha'omer li Isha, Harei B'Kudesh li Lachar Shes Gaya, O li Lachar Shes Gayri, let this Kiddushin be chal after I convert to become a Jew, or after you convert to become a Jew, or an Eved Knani was Makadesh Abbas Yisrael, and he says to her that the Kiddushin Bichal Liachar Shesh Tachrer, oh, Liachar Shetish Tacheri, or if a man is Makadesh, a Shifra Knanis, and he says to her, let the Kiddushin Bichal after you become a Bas Yisrael, after you receive a get Shichur, and also Liachar Shiyomas Baalech, she's an Eish, and he says, I want this Kiddushin Bichal after your husband will die, oh, or he gives Kiddushin to the wife of his sister, and he says, let this Kiddushin be chal after my wife dies, meaning your sister. A man is Mekadesh a Yevam L'Shuk, and he says that let this Kiddushin be chal after Chalitza. In all the above cases, Eina Mekudeshes, because at the moment that he was Mekadesh her, she was not Ru'uya L'Kiddushin. And therefore, it's Kiddushin of a Davar Shelo B'Oliyol. V'chein, furthermore, Homer lechaverim yolda ishtcha nekeva, if your wife will give birth to a female, harezu mekudeshes li, let your daughter be mekudeshes to me and mekudeshes, because again, at this point in time, she's eina ba'olam. The rest of the Mishnah we're going to leave out because it's not the proper girsa. Tanan Hossam, we have a Mishnah at the beginning of Masechet Trumos. Ein Torah min atolush ala mechubar v'im Torah ein Trumaso Truma. You cannot be mafresh Truma from mechubar. You cannot be mafresh Truma on mechubar. And if he says that he's going to go ahead and do this afrosha and it's still mechubar, it's not chal. Rav Asi asked this question to Rav Yochanan. Amar, he declares Peres Haruga Zu. Tlushim yu trumal peros harugazu mechubarim. He wants to be mafresh peros that are now already cut, and they would become truma onto as a tikkun for peros that are mechubarim, they're not cut, they're still growing and attached to the ground. Or alternatively, says peros harugazu mechubarim yu trumal peros harugazu tlushim. Is in all these cases, says Rabbi Yochanan, in all these cases, he says, let the trum vichal, when the tlisha will take place, and it's no longer peres mechubarim, and now enochinami, the tlisha was done, and Rav Asi asked Rabbi Yochanan, should we say lemafreya the trum is chal, or should we say no? At the moment of the afrasha, the peres were mechubarim. Amalei kol shabiyod mechusa ma'aseh dami. This is the famous principle formulated by Rabbi Yochanan that if it's right now, ain't no roy, but it's biyodo, you have the potential to make it into roy, then it's not considered mechusa ma'aseh. And here too, he can be tolesh the peros. It's totally biyodo. No one could prevent him. He doesn't need anyone's approval to cut off the fruits, and therefore, since biyodo shalom l'tolsham, therefore he's chayav in truma, and he could be mafresh on them or from them truma, even before they were actually cut off. Esvei Ravasi Esakasha to Rabbi Yochanan from our Mishnah. It says that Omer Li Isha, now he's a guy. He says Harei Mekudesh Li Lachash is Gaya, Lachash is Chach, Lachash is Tan, Lachash is Shach, is Lachash Omi Bali. Liachar shetomas achosech, or liachar sheachlo tzlech, yevamech, eina mekudeshes. Wait a second. Isn't this a case of biyodo? Bishle v'kulu la biyodo. Elager, hare biyodo. He has total control. This guy was Makadosh and Isha in such a way that the Kiddushin Bichal after Gerus, he could be Megayer himself. So therefore it's biyodo. And based on the logic of Rabbi Yochanan, if it's biyodo, then it's not considered dover shelo b'aliyolo. So therefore, he should be able to be mekadosh a woman and the Kiddushin Bichal immediately after he does gerus. And the Gemara answers, ger nami la biyodo. You think that gerus is biyodo? No. It's mishpat. Mishpat means we need a bezdin. The Amar Rab Chia bar Abba Rab Yochanan, ger tzarich shlosha.